Hello everyone, Jeff the Green Review here. One of the concepts currently influencing landscape design is the idea of a sustainable landscape. There's no official definition of what a sustainable landscape is, but it can mean that you do your design, installation, and maintenance so that you can enjoy your landscape and the buildings within it without compromising the ability of future generations of people and animals to meet their needs in that landscape. Sustainable landscape practices look at where the energy and materials come from to support the landscape and what other landscapes are influenced by practices within the sustainable landscape. This is an honorable idea based on the zoological concept we discussed in our wildlife chapter videos, that you can only put 2 gallons in a 2-gallon bucket. For instance, only so many fruit flies in a test tube or a deer in a forest preserve can survive before the population will reach a level where no more can survive, and in fact, due to starvation, disease, or some kind of catastrophe, many, if not most, of the organisms will die. The assumption is that the Earth, even with input from energy from the sun, has a limit as to how many people can survive. The hope is that each sustained landscape will delay the inevitable catastrophe of the Earth's resources being all used up. Sustainable landscaping concepts assume that the natural landscapes are sustainable by themselves. But don't confuse this with the landscapes not changing, as they are not static. The natural succession from bare ground to weeds to prairie and forest is not always a forward-moving chain of events. Just because you see a forest, prairie, desert, or glacier today doesn't mean it has always been there or will continue to be there, even without mankind's intervention. Native plant populations shift their range as climates slowly shift. History has many examples of poor sustainable practices. Dust Bowl era farmers mismanaged the land and erosion problems resulted. Rainforest subsistence farmers cannot replant crops in the same place because they damage the soil. Ruins from numerous ancient cultures are covered in vines and dust because they couldn't sustain themselves. How big is your sustainable landscape? Does it stop at the imaginary lines we call property lines? Or does it extend into the neighborhood or to the whole watershed? If you plant a tree and give shade to your house in the summer, that's a sustainable activity. But what if the same tree's shade spills over to the property line to shade the neighbor's solar panel? How far off your property does excess fertilizer go? Does it run off to feed the algae in the retention pond? How far does your insecticide or weed killer spread if you don't follow the directions? Where does the rainwater go when it leaves your property, and what is it carrying? The key to sustainable landscapes is the understanding the climatic conditions and having a balance between the soil, water, and plants. Every plant has a different need for soil and water. The plants native to the deserts of Arizona need a different soil and watering schedule than the subtropical plants of Florida or the temperate plants of Minnesota. So the sustainable landscape practices in each area will be different. Trying to grow plants from one environment in another requires inputs that are not sustainable. Many landscapes have an urban soil that is man-made layer produced by mixing, filling, and contaminating the land surface. It tends to be thin, compacted, poorly drained, low in nutrition, high in salt, and is often biologically dead. It is pretty much the opposite of a soil that can grow plants. And it takes a lot of input from fertilizer and pesticides to keep plants healthy. On the other hand, good soil has depth, organic matter, live organisms, moderate pH, good drainage, good aeration, water holding capacity, and nutrient holding capacity. Plants growing in good soil require less fertilizer, fewer pesticides, and less input to keep them alive. The key nutrients of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon come from the air and water, but all the rest of the plant's nutrients have to come from the soil. The best source of these nutrients is organic matter, not fertilizer. A good soil will require less chemical input to maintain healthy plants. A sustainable landscape will not require extra water to maintain the plants beyond what is supplied by the climate. It will not allow water to leave the site carrying sediment or chemicals. Green roofs and walls can lower water runoff and reduce heat absorption. Selection and placement of trees, shrubs, vines, perennials, and lawns is done to reduce heating and cooling costs. Trees are selected for energy efficiency and for windbreaks. Integrated pest management techniques are used only when necessary. This allows for control of pests by natural enemies. To reduce pesticide use, cultural, biological, and mechanical non-pesticide controls are the first choices. Do what you can do by starting with your own landscape. Then organize your neighborhood and work with your homeowners associations. Expand your vision to the whole watershed you're a part of as you see more success. And this is Jeff for the Green Review. Thanks for watching.